AEW Dynamite was the #1 show in the key demo on all of television last week. This according to Tony Khan and new information and data we are getting from the Nielsen ratings. We're going to talk about what this means, how we got here, and why AEW has the possibility to keep this up. We're also going to get into backstage reaction to John Cena's WWE retirement. What did talent backstage think? Fightful Select had the report. We're going to talk about it. All that much more coming up in this video. So be sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. As I said at the top of this video, AEW did a really, really impressive number in the key demo compared to everything else on television this past week. Here is a tweet from Tony Khan this morning saying, quote, "With the AEW WBD data teams back after the holiday weekend, a fun thing we're researching is Wednesday, the July 3rd edition of Dynamite, the first time AEW on TBS/TNT has ever been the #1 show on all TV in viewers age 18 to 34. Not sure if it's our first, but it's a great stat for AEW Wednesday either way." And first of all, that is an insane stat. For those of you who are wondering, like, what does all TV mean? Why is that important? Well, the way this is broken down is like twofold, and the way like these ratings are ranked. #1, you have when you have a show on cable like AEW has, you have the cable ranking, right? And AEW on cable is usually one of the top 3 shows, at least for Dynamite, in that key demo. That's usually the case. Obviously, there have been weeks as of recently that has not been the case, but for the past like 4 years, basically, that has been true. Now, when we talk about all of TV, that does not only include cable, but that also includes broadcast television. And for those of you who are wondering like what the distinction is, broadcast television is like network TV. That's like your Fox, your ABC, if you're in the United States, right? That is like, those are all the channels that used to be available through antenna for free when you had an antenna, but basically, like, that's a distinction. And cable, obviously, you have to pay for. And because of that, broadcast TV is usually available in way more homes compared to cable. So it's way more accessible. That way, that makes it easier, for more people to see the product. That is also what makes this rating insane. And look, we took a look last week at the 18 to 49 demo that was released, and when you compare that specific demo to everything that was on broadcast TV, AEW on July 3rd did a .23. I believe the highest rated show on July 3rd on broadcast TV in that 18 to 49 demo was the Chicago MED, Chicago Med, whatever that was, which garnered like a .20. Again, a lot of this is coming in, but at least we do know, and Tony Khan has confirmed, that 18 to 34 demo, they were #1 on all TV. Again, an insane stat. As far as like what this means, how we got here, I mean, I have for a long time said that one of the things that AEW got away from in 2023 and the latter part of 2022 was focused storylines, and focused storylines that were grounded in reality. I think once they got away from that, and once they got away from making the show must-see, a lot of times it felt like, at least, the booking was kind of resting on its laurels, and it was still a great show if you're a fan of wrestling. But over time, when you do that for too long, you are going to have some people go away, you're going to have some people tune out, and you're going to have some people who may watch it on a DVR or tape delay because it's not must-see live. And the whole point of being live is to ensure that you cannot miss what's happening. Like, you don't need to be a part of the conversation after the fact. You want to be a part of the conversation during the moment. And what we've seen over the past few weeks, and I said that Fairfax show they did on Juneteenth was like a turning point. And that was like, I said that if they continue booking in the way they do from that show, and that was the show, they did a horrible rating. But remember, that week's rating wasn't determined during that show. It was determined in the weeks prior. But if they kept that up, they would improve drastically. And we are starting to see that happen. Like, they have bounced back as far as the ratings. They've like leveled back up to the overall number that they were at, like around 680 to 700,000. But that key demo is working its way back up. And remember, that is what advertisers care about. And at the end of the day, when we talk about like how much the network values you, when you have that, top 3 rating in the demo, in that key demo that advertisers care about, which helps get money into the hands of the network and make them like recoup costs for shows like AEW, they're going to give a massive deal to. That is critical to the partnership for anyone, but especially for AEW. And that means that they are going to be in a much better standing than others shows on TBS and TNT if they keep it up. And if they continue that trend that they had, honestly, before things got, in the mud last year. Let's be honest. Like, the ratings slipped off in a very significant way. Even the quarter-to-quarter overall numbers are quite, like, concerning, at least when you look at them, because they dipped way below what the average was for TV dipping, right? Like, there's going to be a certain number or a certain level of cord cutting, and I believe that's like right around like 8 to 9% year over year. That means like if you're within that, like, you're losing less than 8% of your viewership year over year, like, you're generally fine because that's keeping up with the trend of television. But if it's more than that, which AEW is at, I think for this quarter, they're at like something crazy like 13% or above, like, that is concerning. That means that you are losing viewers who otherwise have not cut the cord. And it means you need to refocus things. And they have. I mean, look, they brought back Hangman Page. They had Britt Baker back. Last week's Dynamite, I thought, was one of the best Dynamites I've ever seen. It felt important. Each segment meant something. And you knew that there was going to be something you can't miss. And the way that you continue this on is to ensure that you hype up your shows, you make sure you promote them well beforehand, and make them must-see. Like, the formula that AEW had in 2020 and 2021 into 2022 was great because you had matches that meant something, that, were leading up to something big, and you knew they were leading up to something big, combined with kick-ass promo segments with your biggest stars, and you knew your biggest stars are going to be there. That is not always the case with AEW TV anymore, but I think it is becoming the case again. And look, talked about it. Go over to youtube.com/WrestleVibes. Check out my video about AEW restoring the feeling, and you'll also understand kind of like what else has played a role into this. But it is good to see, AEW, especially after the ratings that they had recently, kind of get back into shape and back into gear in that way. But we'll see if they can keep it up. That is the ultimate question. If they can keep it up, I think they're going to do fine. As far as like how this impacts, or if this even impacts the, contract negotiations with Warner Brothers Discovery, the way Tony Khan has laid it out is that was on like the 10-yard line. Like, they are going to eventually, very soon, it seems, like, come to a deal, according to Tony, and according to what we're hearing. And I don't think this is going to have any bearing on that. Like, really, like, the numbers that they are looking at are like from like over the past few years, right? Like, they are looking cumulatively. They're not just looking, how did it do this quarter? Like, they're looking like, how did it do last year? How did it do the year before? Consistently, what's the average? Like, there are a lot more than just like the recent ratings that go into these conversations about re-upping. And look, they're going to get a massive increase. And if everything goes well, they get between that $130 to $180 million range, or $200 million range, they're likely, or it's estimated, I should say, that they're going to be profitable. But we'll see what happens there. But let's move on to some other interesting news. Let's talk about the man, the myth, the legend, who we cannot see, John Cena. So John Cena announced that he will retire in 2025, shocking the entire professional wrestling world. And no one was as shocked as I was. At first, I was like, are they working? And then I was like, oh, wait, no, Cena's like tearing up. He's not working. This is true. And we found out, that Cena will be, he will be done in December. And we'll talk about that in a second. But interesting note about backstage reaction. So FightfulSelect.com, which is the best $5 in the business, according to Sean Ross Sapp. But great reporting from FightfulSelect.com. Go check this out. Here is an excerpt from the report. John Cena wasn't exactly hiding in Toronto on July 6th, and Fightful Select reported that he was in town for the show. Despite that, the talent we spoke to said that they didn't realize he was going to retire until they saw him in his, quote, "the last time is now" merchandise. There were several people in the company that knew the news was coming, but it was kept close to the vest. We're told that it will be a heavily promoted retirement tour, and Cena is expected to be around fairly often throughout 2025. Again, for the full story, click the link in the description, FightfulSelect.com. But wonderful reporting there. Gives you a bit of a glimpse into like how much of a surprise this was for people backstage in WWE. Like if you're likely not in that inner circle, like, Triple H and like the higher ups who kind of are in charge of producing the show and things like that, I doubt that you knew that this was coming. I don't think this was a heavily promoted thing internally in WWE, or at least it doesn't seem like from that report. And, I think that's why you saw like the outpouring that you did of gratitude and respect for John Cena, because everything was happening in real time. These reactions from talent, from everyone, from the fans, was in real time. And it's what makes like John Cena's retirement, even more like special. Like this guy has been around since 2002 on the main roster. And ever since then, he has been a focal part of the show. Like when he's there, you take notice. When John Cena is in the building, you pay attention, because you cannot miss what he does. And for those of you who are wondering, what his retirement tour entails, this is what we know so far. His retirement tour runs through 2025. He will compete at the Royal Rumble, Elimination Chamber, and WrestleMania, but he will not be done there. There's going to be 30 to 40 more dates throughout the year. The tour will end in December, and he will never wrestle again after this run. That is according to John Cena. He made it abundantly clear he will never lace up his boots, wear jorts, wrestle again. You will see him, but he will be in a suit and tie. He will never get physical in the ring again. And I think that WWE are going to, use this and ensure that they extract as much time and value out of this as possible. Like they are in the money-making phase of this, merger with UFC, and they want to make sure that they do that. And like, they're going to do that. Like 2025 is going to be a historic year for WWE, because it's going to be like a year out after this TKO merger. There are going to be a lot more partnerships that are established. The infrastructure is going to be even more built out than it already is and streamlined. And then on top of that, you have this insane tour, one of the biggest stars in the history, the biggest star of the modern day in John Cena, retiring. Like, and you get to build that for a year. He's going to be around for most of it. They're going to do insane business. Like, I do not see these crowds going away. Like, these 17,000 crowd. Like eventually, WWE will hit a snag. That's going to happen. Like business always, like, comes in spurts, right? And it varies depending on, like, what the new version of success is. But they are going to have a very successful year. And this guy, John Cena, is going to be very instrumental in that happening. But we'll see what happens. I want to hear from you guys. Who do you want to see John Cena face during his retirement run? Who should retire John Cena? Let me know in the comment section. Also, if you haven't already done so, do me a big time favor. Smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released.